What is up, everybody? It is JT Sports. I am back to you guys with another video. This video, I'm here with my Dallas Cowboys 2021 7-round mock draft. Before I get into it, make sure that you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel because I upload NFL videos and NFL content daily. Also, make sure that you guys check out my 7-round mock draft playlist. The playlist will be popping up so you guys can go ahead and check out all of my mock drafts for all 32 NFL teams. So when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, okay, a lot of people are expecting the Dallas Cowboys to make the playoffs this upcoming season in 2021. Well, one thing that Dallas needs to improve if they want to make it into the playoffs this upcoming NFL season is that defense. That defense last year for Dallas was embarrassing to say the least. And they have pretty much holes on that defense that they need to fill. Now, all those holes going to be filled after the NFL draft. I don't know, but I think you can't go wrong with their first selection, 10th overall, being cornerback J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. Now, the pretty obvious picks in the majority of mock drafts I've seen so far this offseason has Dallas taking a cornerback. It's either Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley. So I think I may be the first person to come on this platform and say this, but I think J.C. Horn is the second best cornerback in this draft class. No disrespect to Caleb Farley, but the more I watch J.C. Horn, the more I just fall in love with his game. First of all, he's 6'1", 205 pounds, so you got pretty good size there. This guy is a great man coverage corner. I mean, this guy can play man-to-man coverage all day. And he's also physical and aggressive, and he also isn't scared to lay a hit as well, which is something that you don't really see out of this day and age of cornerbacks. More and more every year we start to see these great coverage corners, but they're scared to tackle. This guy, J.C. Horn, in my opinion, I think may end up being the best cornerback from this draft class. And you pair him alongside of Trayvon Diggs, which, by the way, Trayvon Diggs, I don't know if a lot of you guys knew this, but Trayvon Diggs was the best cornerback from that draft class last year. And keyword, he wasn't even drafted in the first round. So you pair J.C. Horn up with Trayvon Diggs, where both of those guys have pretty similar skill set. Dallas secondary is going to be tremendously improved. And not only that, but you're going to have one of the best young cornerback duos in the NFL. Now, moving on to the second round, I have them still in secondary. I have them selecting safety are Darius Washington out of TCU. Now, Morek, his fellow teammate who he was alongside of, made the best safety back tandem in all of college football. Well, when you look at Darius Washington, he's 5'8", 176 pounds. But when I watch him play, he reminds me a lot of Bob Sanders. For those of you guys who may not remember Bob Sanders, a lot of you youngsters, well, I'm a youngster, but anyway, you guys know what I mean. A lot of you guys may not know who Bob Sanders was. Bob Sanders was around the similar height. He was an undersized safety, but this guy was a hard hitter. This guy was not afraid to make a tackle. As a matter of fact, he kind of like another linebacker when he was on the field. That's kind of how I consider our Darius Washington. This guy is a hard hitter, a super aggressive tackler. He's not afraid to throw his body on the line to make a play. He's also really solid in coverage as well. I think this guy is way better than what a lot of people give him credit for. I think the reason why our Darius Washington isn't getting a lot of hype around his name is because people look at the 5'8" and they look at his size and they get turned off by that. But if you watch the film and you can get over his lack of size, you see a really good football player. This guy reminds me a lot of Bob Sanders during his playing days with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, obviously, with his 5'8", 176-pound frame, you're probably going to have durability concerns as well. But I think Darius Washington has potential to be a pretty solid safety, and he reminds me a lot of Bob Sanders. Now, he may not be as good as what Bob Sanders was when he was healthy and when he was on the field, but I think he could be a pretty solid player for the Dallas Cowboys. Round 3, 75th overall, having selected linebacker of Ohio State, Pete Werner. Now, Pete Werner is 6'3", 228 pounds. He played all three linebacker positions. He's also pretty good in coverage. Now, he's only 228, which may turn off a lot of people, but he's pretty good in coverage. And also on top of that, when you look at Dallas, the problems that he had last year, I think Pete Warner could be a guy who could come in and you kind of rotate him into certain packages, you know, maybe bring him in nickel packages, pure passing situations or whatnot. But I think something that Dallas needs is more depth and more help at the linebacker position. You definitely are going to get that out of linebacker Pete Warner. With their second, third round selection, 100th overall, I have them selecting defensive tackle Alim Mcneil out of North Carolina State University. Now, this guy has pretty good size. He's 6'2", 317 pounds. This guy is a really good pass rusher coming from the defensive tackle position. He has great raw power and speed for his size, and I really like Mcneil a lot. Now, when you look at Dallas, they need some more help in the interior of that D-line, specifically at that defensive tackle spot. Well, for Mcneil, I think he's the guy who can come in right away and can give you 4, maybe 3.5 sacks as a rookie, which 3.5 sacks may not sound that impressive, but this guy, you got to remember, he's going to be a rookie. He's going to be a defensive tackle. Defensive tackle aren't necessarily going to put up phenomenal, astronomical pass numbers, you know, when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback. You don't find an Aaron Donald every day. But I think Mcneil has potential to be a guy who could potentially be a Pro Bowl caliber defensive tackle who's going to consistently give you 7, 8 sacks a year. And I think he could come off the bat and have 3.5, 4 sacks as a rookie for Dallas. I think he's that good. Now, one thing that I was a little bit turned off by is that I watched him play against Clemson back in 2019, and he pretty much was shut down. He was a non-factor in that game. That's pretty much the only red flag that I have about Mcneil, but I think he most definitely can provide the Dallas Cowboys with some more depth and some more help up front in the interior of that defensive line, the meat and potatoes, if you want to call it that. Round 416th overall, cornerback Ambry Thomas out of the University of Michigan. He's 6 foot, 191 pounds. He's another good press man corner. He's also a pretty good tackler. The downside about him is the fact that he gets a little bit handsy, a little bit grabby down the field, when sometimes he doesn't even need to be grabby. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes he just panics and he gets to grab it on the jersey and things like that. But I think if you can coach him out of that, you can coach him to trust his technique a little bit more. I think you're going to have a guy who's going to be a really solid corner. And on top of that, if you have J.C. Horn, you're also going to have Trayvon Diggs. You can have Ambry Thomas. He could be your slot corner. I think he could be a phenomenal slot corner. I think he could have the makings of being the best slot corner in the NFL because he's just as good outside. So when you look at Ambry Thomas, I mean, he gets a little bit handsy. You're probably going to have a couple of holding penalties, a couple of pass interference calls on him. But I think Ambry Thomas, if he gets coached into trusting his technique more and stops being handsy and grabby, I think you're going to have a pretty good corner in your hands if you are Dallas. And your secondary should be really good by this point. So we can move on to another position, moving to the offensive side of football. More depth on the offensive line when it comes to offensive tackle. Brandon James, I think out of Nebraska, 139th overall, could fill that void. He's a swing tackle who's 6'4", 298 pounds, which swing tackle, because a lot of you guys may not know what that means. Swing tackle means that you have a guy who can play both off the tackle spot. You have a guy who can play left and right tackle. I think for Dallas right now, you need some more help on the offensive line. You need a little bit more depth there because you're kind of thin there. So one thing about him is that he has good foot quickness, and he also has, you know, the ability to play both tackle spots. So you get a guy who, if you have a guy who goes down for injury at left tackle or right tackle, you have a guy who can come in and fill either one of those spots in the 4th round. I think you're getting a pretty good value there. In the 5th round, I have Dallas staying with the offensive line, having them select an offensive guard, Jared Harker out of Texas A&M University, 6'5", 327 pounds. This guy is a mauler in the run game. He has very good size as well. And I think for a 5th round selection, you're getting a guy who can potentially be a really good starting caliber offensive guard if he ends up developing the way that you hope. So for Jared Harker, you come in and you're going to have the ability to come in and play for one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You're going to have a chance to sit back, learn. Then potentially you could end up getting your opportunity called if you have injuries or something like that. So I think Jared Harker going in the 5th round to Dallas will be a very good pick, and Dallas keeps on improving the offensive line by adding some more depth there, because you can never have too many good offensive linemen on your roster. The name of the game is being able to win in the trenches. If you can't win in the trenches, then you're not going to win a lot of ball games. 193rd overall. In the 6th round, I have them selecting edge rusher out of Duke. Victor, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but he's 6'1", 262 pounds. He has good power rush moves. His hands are very heavy and forceful, but he has average closing speed when it comes to finishing plays, when it comes to tracking down the quarterback and things like that. Now, obviously, he does have the length to become a really good player at the NFL level, and for Dallas, you need some more help at that edge rusher position because edge rusher last year wasn't all that great, despite the fact that you have DeMarcus Lawrence being one of the highest paid pass rushers in the NFL. So I think you draft this guy, he could be a good rotational piece, then he could end up becoming an every down player with more experience. 228th overall, I have them selecting one of my favorite players from last year in college football, well in 2019, is halfback Rakim Boyd. Now, Rakim Boyd, I like him a lot because he was on Last Chance U. This guy has very good size, 5'11", 213 pounds. He's a one-cut runner. Reminds me a little bit of Arian Foster a little bit. He's patient, but he's not all that explosive. He's not all that elusive in the open field. He's either going to run you over or he pretty much is going to get tackled down. So he doesn't really have that second gear, neither that turn the corner speed. But I think for Dallas, he could be a very good backup behind Ezekiel Elliott. You know, work him into the rotation and things like that. I think you let him come in, let him battle it out for a roster spot. Maybe he makes a roster, maybe he doesn't. If you do, you have a pretty good backup on your hands in case Ezekiel Elliott or somebody else ahead of him goes down with an injury. I really like Rakim Boyd a lot. And with their last selection of this year's NFL draft, 7th round, 239th overall, I have them selecting defensive tackle Carlo Kemp out of the University of Michigan. He is 6'3", 281 pounds. His size is a big concern. He's only 281 pounds, which means he doesn't really have a defined position. So pretty much you're looking at a guy who's pretty much a nose tackle, a D tackle, or a defensive end. I think in the NFL he'll probably be more of a defensive end. And he has okay pass rush ability, good agility, and things like that. But you know, you're kind of wondering where you're going to put him at because look at his size. He's 281 pounds. So I think he'll be more of a DN at the NFL level. So this is it for my Dallas Cowboys 2021 7th round mock draft. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comment section down below.